Hi, Destiny.
Um, Hello.
Hi.
You didn't send the link to people, like, you didn't post the link again?
Okay, let me see.
So that's why I didn't find it. One of my friends told me that for her school, she has the same link. That's why I'm so late, because I was trying to look for the link, but it
but
said...
it doesn't open until 2:50, so you're fine. And you're
No, I
here.
know. I didn't receive no message on Jupiter saying, like, oh, like,
Okay.
you get what
That's
I'm saying?
yeah, that's odd because I had eighth period to open. Like I set the forum to start at the beginning of eighth, but you're saying like it didn't get sent out. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was, like, looking for it. And then I was talking to my friend before
Okay.
after the period ended, and she told me that for her school it always has the same link for each class. So I was like, all right. So I went to one of my emails.
Right. I'm sorry about that because I definitely had it like set up for today. Okay, let me just send this out to everyone.
I guess that's why people wasn't joining. I was like, what?
No, I got
No
you.
class today? I was like, I know for a fact if there was no class, you would have said it in the message. But
Right, absolutely. Okay, but you're here, so that's awesome. And then what we're doing today, let's work on art as protest.
where?
The assignment from yesterday. So the art as protest, Native Americans, from 10:15. Because this will help you on the quiz that was for today. And if you don't get it done, like it's not going to be a 0 automatically until like the next week that we have class. And if it's not done like the beginning of the next week that we have class, let's say like Wednesday, if it's not done the quiz, then I'll start putting in the zeros. But I'm going to give you some extra time for the quiz. Okay?
All right.
All right. So let's go ahead and open this one up. So let me put the questions in the chat for you. And this is what we're kind of looking for with the Junopod 1015 art as protests. I'm really, really excited about this artist because the Brooklyn Museum has him on, like his exhibit is open in the Brooklyn Museum. And I went and saw it last week. Yeah, last weekend. Okay. I'm a huge museum nerd. So anything about like art and protest art, I'm really into. Let me make sure that I send this to like share the sound. And let me have 1 second to kind of message Kane, let him know that it's open. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start watching the video, and we are answering the question in the chat.
Indigenous histories and crafts provide this incredible, infinite use of materials and content that I really feel very privileged to have access to. The ability to take a material and to transform it into something culturally specific or have a specific narrative in the aesthetic. When I look at historic materials, it's what the incredible power of them is. The Leica Hammer exhibition really focuses on a transition in the work from 2011 up to present. Around 2010, I was really on the cusp of walking away from being an artist. When I decided to start making again in 2011, I was determined to make what I wanted to see. I started using the word maker because it allowed me to go into everything from garments to video to sculpture, embrace textiles and adornment and the decorative without feeling the boundary of what art is perceived to be. The punching bag was kind of like a lifesaver for me in the sense that it was able to, as a format and the materials, it encompassed the narrative for the first time. This idea of adornment and regalia diffused the violence of a punching bag.
So what kind of materials do you see? Like if you were to take a guess looking at the punching bag.
I don't know. It was like, I don't know.
Does it look smooth or bumpy?
It looks smooth. It looks put together.
Like if you were to put your hand on it, what do you think you would feel?
Plastic, I don't know.
They're beads actually. Like
Yeah,
all of this, they're all beads. Can you see
not
it?
sad, but
Oh, you
yeah,
said
I see
that.
the beads.
Yeah. So it's going to be a little bit rough and bumpy because you're going to feel like all the beads on it.
Yeah, when you asked me the first time, you was like, "Oh, like what does it look like?" And I was like beads. Does it look like beads put together? But if you punch it, that's not good because it's beads, like literally, like
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wouldn't be. It looks smooth because I'm saying it looks smooth by the visual of it. Like
Okay.
if you touch it, like you can go down it, but if you punch it, that's gonna hurt.
Right. Mm-hmm. So what other materials do we see he uses?
I don't know what that is.
So these are his drums. He makes these like drums. And what kind of material do you think this is?
Wood? I don't know. Like kind of material.
So there is wood, and then it's like raw hide, like leather from animal skins.
Yeah.
So he's using these kind of things. What does this remind you of? Like what group of people might have used this in the past? Go ahead.
You said might have used what?
These kind of materials in the past.
I don't know, maybe Native Americans?
Okay. Yeah, hold on to that thought. Let me catch Kane up. Hey, Kane, welcome. So we are going to open up the Juno pod from yesterday, 10:15. Let me also remind you that because you are here for a lesson, I'm going to count it as like a makeup 3R grade as well. So if you were missing a 3R grade, I'm giving you that, like one of them, for attending. And then what we're doing, sorry, Destiny, let me like go back to the Juno pod. So we are working on the 10:15 assignment, Art as Protest, Native Americans. I know it says that we have a quiz, but let's not worry about it until like the Monday that you come back, or the Tuesday. Okay, I'm gonna give you some extra time on it. So Kane, do you have the Art as Protest Native Americans assignment up?
Oh, I'm on my phone, so I think it will work.
You have what?
I have my phone open up, so it won't work.
Okay. So it's easier if someone goes into JunoPod for you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so the first thing that we're doing, Kane, is we're watching this video. So it says watch the video. Second slide is who is Jeffrey Gibson and what is his cultural background? And then the next question is like this question as well. And I'm gonna put both of them up because like in the video, they kind of talk about both or show hints at both at the same time. So they're showing a little bit about like who is Jeffrey Gibson as well as like looking at the materials he's using. And how his materials show his culture. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the video.
Miss, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
Oh, so I put the questions from the JunoPod in the chat. And the two questions is, you know, who is Jeffrey Gibson? What is his cultural background? And how is he using like art materials to show his culture?
Okay.
And those two questions are in the Zoom chat. Okay.
Yes.
So maybe as we're watching it, you can like answer in the chat what you were noticing. That helps you answer the two questions. All right, so everyone ready for me to play the video again?
Yes.
Indigenous histories and crafts provide this incredible, infinite use of materials and content that
So what is indigenous? He pretty much just explained like his background. Indigenous, does anyone know what that means? And Destiny, you're on mute. I don't know if you're trying to talk.
Okay, hello?
Yeah.
Indigenous, I feel like, I'm not sure, but like indigenous, where how he uses like indigenous histories, like I guess where you're like from.
Yes. Okay, so indigenous, where you're from, native. Let's keep going.
of materials and content that I really feel very privileged to have access to. The ability to take a material and to transform it into something culturally specific or have a specific narrative in the aesthetic. When I look at historic materials, it's what the incredible power of them is. The Like a Hammer exhibition really focuses on a transition in the work from 2011 up to present. Around 2010, I was really on the cusp of walking away from being an artist. When I decided to start making again in 2011, I was determined to make what I wanted to see. I started using the word maker because it allowed me to go into everything from garments to video to sculpture, embrace textiles and adornment and the decorative without feeling the boundary of what art is perceived to be. The punching bag was kind of like a lifesaver for me in the sense that it was able to, as a format and the materials, it encompassed the narrative for the first time. This idea of adornment and regalia diffused the violence of a punching bag. I had to start making these pieces as a way of bridging all of these kind of gaps. I decided to use beadwork and weavings and rawhide to really lessen the distance between my references and what I was actually making. What enabled me to continue wanting to be an artist was, I think, finding formats that made me feel like I was being heard. The rawhide paintings place me as a painter in a way that is freeing because the hide itself establishes whatever I do on that surface as coming from a non-Western aesthetic. The challenge is...
So what kind of materials are you seeing? Kane, what are some things that you saw so far that he uses?
Some type of cylinder block.
Okay. What do you see here?
He took them all and made them to a punching bag.
Okay. What are these?
Containers
Of?
like beads.
Yes, so he's using a lot of beads. He's using some kind of round singular cylinder. I mean, like, looks like drums. Like if we take a look at,
I think, finding formats that made me feel like I was being heard. The rawhide paintings place me as a painter.
Anyone know what rawhide is? Destiny, any ideas of what other materials he's using besides beads?
The leather?
Leather or rawhide.
Yeah.
Where would you get leather or rawhide? Like in history, where did people get this material?
Animals?
From the animals. So knowing that, knowing he's using beads, can we take a guess? What is his background?
Native American?
So he's possibly Native American. Yeah. Let's keep kind of getting into like, how does he demonstrate his identity through these materials?
In a way that is freeing because the hide itself establishes whatever I do on that surface as coming from a non-Western aesthetic. The challenge is different when I go into canvas. When you get into canvas, you're bringing in all these other histories. Modernism is very much about control and the ability to dictate and predict. So it's a bridge for me to kind of think about the distinction between trying to have some control over your place and organic life, where there's so much that we don't know about how things operate. In my work, the primary themes are historical references, subcultural aesthetics, so not just Native American, but also histories of like queer aesthetics and gendered aesthetics and fashion and looking at text in the contemporary world and understanding, I think, how history is relevant to the present. I look for words that I imagine that a viewer can actually place themselves within. The exploration into all of these things, psychologically, physically, was about me trying to build all of the connections between what otherwise would just be so separate and didactic, and pushing myself to articulate.
Take a look at this piece, this artwork. What else do you see here? Kane, what do you see?
I see Sometimes I got no clue what it is. I'm gonna just guess what it is. Sometimes.
Yeah. What does it look like?
Like something from an African ritual trial thing.
Okay, so it looks tribal. Yeah. Africans are not the only tribes. There's also Native American tribes. What looks tribal to you?
Native Americans?
Right, Native Americans had tribal things. What about this piece looks like it could be from a tribe?
Indians?
Right. Destiny, you want to help him out? Like, what do you see in
I
the
guess
materials?
it's the material like the featherish like fashion and the colors
Yeah.
and all pieced together. Like it's something that you might see a Native American like way back when wearing.
Yeah.
And just the cape thing that just
yes,
says
it's
a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the
go ahead.
Like the words, it also has words. Says it's basically, if you look at it, it could possibly tell you a story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I guess that's what he's trying to show from this piece. And by the the purple like stream things coming down, like you could tell that's something that somebody way back when would wear and a tribe.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So you both are right. Like it looks very tribal. It looks like something that Native Americans or different tribes would have worn back then. Very historic pieces. But made by somebody today. And we're saying made by somebody who's Native American today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's significant about Jeffrey Gibson is that there's not a lot of Native American art in museums. Jeffrey Gibson is one of the, like, I wouldn't say one of the few, but there's not many. And if you wanted to see his artwork up close, you could find it at the Brooklyn Museum. Anyone been to the Brooklyn Museum before?
No.
Kane, you haven't been to the Brooklyn Museum?
Not as much. Not really.
Not really. Okay. Anyone know where like Eastern Parkway? It's near Eastern Parkway.
I'm not from Brooklyn.
Where are you from?
I'm from the Bronx.
Oh, okay. Well, if you take the 2 train to Atlantic, then you can take I believe you can even take the 2 train down to Brooklyn Museum. Yeah, I'd have to look, but you can get a train at Atlantic for that.
Yeah.
So I highly encourage it. The Brooklyn Museum, maybe not this year, but in the future. It's donation, like whatever you can pay. I went last weekend and I had to make a reservation, but it was very cheap, donation based. And his artwork is still up.
What those very genuine bridges were in my life. When in the studio, there's always these different parts of something coming into realization. The first one is experimentation, and then we eventually go into production. With birch bark, we soak it, we peel it apart into as many layers as we can, we've sewn through it, we've embossed it, we put grommets in it, we've seen what kind of forms it will hold, and now I feel like I have a very brief, short history with a material that I can begin inventing from.
That is so cool to me. I have never considered like using the bark of a wood, like wood bark for art. I think that could be like difficult to use.
That has been the biggest part of building a team of people here at the studio to work with. It's opened up for experimentation to continue. My performances started with me realizing what it means to push yourself or to take risks. was one of the last things I wanted to do, was to make me the subject. And the garment, as being a transformative garment, I am Jeffrey Gibson, but I'm also cloaked in a character that has yet to be defined. And so the garment is iridescent, it's organza. I'm a large man with bells and jingles and a drum inside of this rainbow chiffon room. My body has been trained to move a certain way in this world that I feel has not accepted queer Indigenous men. There's shame, there's just an inhibition to entitlement, and the performances are really about me creating a space where I can experiment with entitlement. I can allow myself to move literally how I feel in terms of vulnerability. So what I hope the work is able to do is to send a signal to not just queer youth on the reservation or in communities, but maybe people who just feel like they need an expansiveness that's not presented to them in that context, that there is a community for them that wants to support them and wants to hear from them. Like a Hammer as a title has always been conceptually and philosophically the idea of a hammer being a tool of deconstruction and reconstruction, but also I think in particular like a DIY kind of ethic, that it's this simple tool that a single person can alter something with. I move forward as an artist on the trust that we all share a similar experience. Ultimately, everybody is at an intersection of multiple cultures, times, histories. The world is shifting and changing, and if you're engaged in the world, you are also shifting and changing. When I was questioning whether I would continue as an artist or not, that was the really big shift. This is the work that I needed to contextualize my painting practice. I believe that there's a lot more to be gained in the spaces in between mapped points than there is at the mapped points. So I'm trying to make everything, garments, performances, paintings that exist in my kind of personal exploration of what modernity means within Indigenous cultures. I'm always looking for these in-between spaces of things.
Okay. So, we can kind of go back to which question? Who is Jeffrey Gibson and what is his cultural background? He gave 2 parts of his identity. Anyone remember what the 2 are? Kim, what's one thing that you know about Jeffrey Gibson from the video?
He could be a Native American.
He's Native American. Yeah.
He's an artist.
He's an artist. And he mentioned that he makes art to make queer people comfortable. So what does that mean?
What?
Like, what is queer?
Can you repeat that?
He also mentioned that his artwork is centered around him being, like his performances are challenging him and society around the idea of being a queer man in society. What does it mean to be queer?
Queer?
I don't even know what that word meant.
Okay. It means that he is part of the LGBTQ community.
That's what that rainbow flag was meant.
Queer. Okay, I got it. So, he's very like different.
Okay.
Not very different, but I'm saying like it's to be an artist. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And part of the LGBTQ.
Right. So
strange.
Okay. So it's part for people that are either lesbian, gay, transgender, stuff like that. He's making his artwork approachable to them as well, his performances, because that's part of his identity as well. So when you're answering this question, you want to have like, all parts of his identity in there. Yes. Yes, Kane, it's related to the rainbow flag. Mhm. Let me, oh, I'm sorry. Kane, this is your assignment. So, what do you want me to write? Jeffrey Gibson is
A artist, but he's queer.
is a queer artist. And what else is he? You saw a lot of materials of what culture?
Native American.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Explain how he uses his materials to show his culture or his background.
Wait. What about, it says, what is his cultural background? Does that testify as it's me seeing? Because I put only Jeffrey Gibson is a queer Native American artist.
Well, did you talk about his culture as far as like, yeah, he's Native American and he's queer and he's an artist and that's all of his cultural background. That's what that means. Like, what makes your identity?
So that's it.
Yeah, that's all you really need.
Okay.
Would you have gotten that without the video? Probably not. So it shows me like you watched the video. Okay, so explain how Jeffrey Gibson uses his materials to show his culture. Specifically, what kind of materials did he use?
He used beads. He used like, I forgot what it's called, but basically
Rawhide or
animals, like
animal skin slash leather. Okay. Kane, what else did you see?
Like beats and all that.
He did a lot of beadwork.
Paint.
And paint. What else did you see? Like he had, we were examining one of the art pieces he made, right?
Like the punching bag for boxing?
Yes.
So he used
punching bags, fabric. Yeah. How does this change your perspectives on Native Americans, or how does, what kind of message is he trying to give people?
Miss, can you go back? I was like looking at the class.
I'll put this in the chat because you both came up with it, so I'll put it in the chat. And if we were to break things down, what, for example, what was the animal skin, the rawhide used for?
Drums.
He was
so he made
animal skin.
Yeah. He made drums with animal skin or
Guess
rawhide.
They made clothing, I guess?
Yes, he made clothing, like the coat. Yeah. And we mentioned the punching bags. Yeah. Are you ready for the next question?
Hold on.
Okay.
We have 5 minutes left in the class.
That's true. So Destiny, I'm gonna go ahead and move ahead. Like, you don't need all of this. If you have some of it, you're fine.
All right,
So what's the message about Native Americans?
They can be artsy and they can be creative.
He is showing people that Native Americans can be artsy, creative. What else? Let me show you some of his art pieces and we can kind of get into.
Do you have a green extension cord? No, I'm in class. Go. Okay.
So you're saying American history is longer, more beautiful, and more terrible than anything anyone has ever said about it. That's one piece. So what is his message overall?
That there's more to history than most people may think, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What are some other things? Oh my gosh, check this one out. This was in the video. And it says people like us.
Mm-hmm.
What does he mean by people like us? Who is he talking about?
Tribal people?
Tribal people? Who else?
Oh, we don't have a minute.
I know. So some of his messages is about acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about accepting people. I'm gonna let you guys do the last two questions. How can art demonstrate or talk about tough topics? No, he's tackling some tough subjects, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you could do that question on your own. And then what is something that you feel passionate about? It could be anything about your identity. Have you ever used art, poetry, or other methods to explain how you feel about the topics. Like if it's about stereotypes, if it's about gender, is it about like police brutality? Do you use art in any way to like talk about things that you feel or notice in the news or feel passionate about? You able to do that on your own?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna click finish later for you so that you can answer that, Kane. And
Wow.
just reminding you guys that you get extra credit for today. What's one thing that you take away from it, Kane?
I guess he expresses art, even though he is a queer person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's expressing his art in a way that lets people know he's queer, he's Native American. Yep, you can go. Have a great weekend. Destiny, one thing that you also taken away.
What I took away from the video and the artist himself is that, you know, he wants to like, oh my god, how you say, inspire people, or like
Inspire people, yeah.
give people hope. But instead of him speaking on it, which he did do some of it in the video, he basically expresses how he feels about certain issues that he that's important to him. He basically expresses it through his art.
Right. Yeah, so we've looked at like, you know, what's going to help Native Americans. It's through things like his artwork. It's through things like sending the message out. First of all, a lot of people think that Native Americans are all dead, you know, that they all wiped out. But by getting his art out there, he's like changing narratives. He's changing messages about Native Americans, that they're not just stereotypes, that they're not just in history books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have a great weekend.
Okay, you too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.